The next page in our notebook is page 34, Understanding Relations. So first of all, we need to know what a relation is. A relation is a set of ordered pairs where X is the input and Y is the output. Remember that that an ordered pair is X comma Y. So that's the first thing. So the next thing that we need to look at is, let's talk about domain and range. Now, last time we talked about domain being all X's and range being all Y's. So we're going to slightly change that. Now we're going to say that the domain is all of our input values, and the range is all of our output values. So again, the domain had been all X values, and the range was Y values. So we're going to slightly change that to being input versus output. Okay, so if we look at this first one here, this relation represents the number of whole wheat cracker boxes sold and the money that they earned. So we have 1, 4, 2, 8, 3, 2, and 4, 16. So the domain is all of the X values. So our X values, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Notice that that is our domain right here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of our range is all of our Y values, which here is 4, 8, 12, and 16. So those are all of our range values. X's versus Y's, inputs versus outputs. So if we look at the next one here, we're going to say for the relation, the input X is the age of boys, and the output Y is their corresponding heights. So we're looking at age versus height. So it wants us to create a table. Well, when we create a table, we're just looking for like an XY chart. So we have X and Y. So our table here, if we look, our X values, 7, 8, 9, 10, another 10, 11, and 12. So I'm going to write that down. 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so there are my inputs. What I get out would be my my outputs, or my heights. So with 7, at 7 years old, they were 41 inches. 8 years old, 45. 9 years old, 49. 10 years old, 52. Another 10-year-old, 53. 11-year-old, 55. And a 12-year-old, 59. Remember, those are all in inches. So that is if we list them as a table. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So that's creating a table. Now, if we plot the points on our graph, we need to remember that each one of these points here was a coordinate point. So this is 7, 41. So if we go over here and you have your graph on page 35, we're going to need to plot these points. So if we look, the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out what our X and Y values are. So our X values, if we go back to this here, it told us our input X is the age of boys. The output Y is their corresponding height in inches. So our X values are ages, and our Y values are height. Now, the ages went from 7 to 12. If you look, I believe the one I gave you would allow you to number this so that each one is worth one box. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then the heights, we would want to find a scale to use that would fit everything. So our smallest is 41. That's the smallest. And our largest was 59. So we probably definitely want to at least go up to 60. So let's figure out how we can do that. Let's try counting by fives first. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 60. Yay, it works. So I'm not going to write all of those numbers out, partially because I'm lazy, and secondly, that would look cluttered. So I'm going to skip this one. This would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. So now I have created my graph. Now I just need to plot the points. And again, the points are over in our table. The first one was 7, 41. So that'll be right around there. 8, 45. That would be there. 9, 49. 10, 52. 10, 53. I got really close to my line, but it's the best I could do. 11, 55, and 12, 59. So there are our points. So there's our graph. Now, it now says complete the mapping diagram. So a mapping diagram is basically where you have your domains on one part here and your ranges in the other. And it's kind of, a lot of times you'll see it in like an egg shape or an oval shape. And basically a mapping is just pointing arrows from the domain to the range. So 7 went to 41. 8 went to 45. 9 went to 49. Now, it doesn't always work where these numbers are like straight lines. That doesn't always happen. 10 went to 52, but it also went to 53. 11 went down here to 55, and 12 to 59. You always want to put these in numerical order, but be careful, the lines do not always go like this. It just so happens that normally as you get older, your heights get larger. So that's why it kind of looks like they all went straight across. So that was completing the mapping diagram. You start at the domain and you go to the range that it corresponds to. So stating the domain is simply all of these here. So you could say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Notice I have 2 10s in my graph up here and 2 10s on my chart, or my table. However, I do not have 2 10s in my mapping. You only put each number once. Only put it once. And then when you state the domain, you also only put that once. And then another way that you could rewrite this is 7 less than or equal to the age in years, less than or equal to 12. The range would simply be all of these numbers. So in this case, 41, 45, 49, 52, 53, 55, and 59. This one you could not write like this because it's only specifically these numbers here. Only specifically those numbers. So that's understanding relations. Now let's go ahead and look at recognizing functions. So this is going to be a little different. So we just graphed and plotted and mapped out our relation. Now we're going to look at functions. A function is a type of relation where there is only one output for each input. So we're supposed to, on this part here, give the domain and range, state the corresponding outputs for the inputs in context, and explain whether it's a function. So basically here, if you look, we have 40 students, 45 students, and 50 students, and their classrooms. The number of classrooms that they have are right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look, we're going to first go ahead and graph that. So 40 students, and they have 2 classrooms. 45 students will have 3 classrooms, and 50 students will have 4 classrooms. So that's if we graph it here. Now the domain, again, those are your x values. So 40, 45, and 50. The domain, if we were talking about what it represents the number of students. The range, well, that's right here. It's 2, 3, and 4. Remember, it's just your y values. And this is the number of classrooms. So if we look, another way, sometimes easier, to see if something is a function is to do a mapping. So if we have 40 students, 45 students, and 50 students, and our classrooms are going to be 2, 3, and 4, 40 goes to 2, 45 goes to 3, 50 goes to 4. Notice that each input goes to only one output. So yes, this is a function. Now, if we look at this one, the given relation represents the amount of gas in gallons and the distance traveled. So, again, if we do a mapping, 10, 16, 17, 20, and over here we have 150, 240, another 240, which again, you don't write it twice, and then 300. So 10 goes to 150, 16 goes to 240, 17 goes to 240, and 20 goes to 300. Now, again, it's, does every input go to where there's one output for every input? So if we look at this one here, this input goes to this output, this input to that one, this to that, and this to that. It doesn't matter that 2 of them go to the 240. What matters is that there's only one line coming off of each number. So yes, this is still a function.